Jump shot, got it! Jalen Brunson, born to play basketball. It's a 4-point lead.
All right. Damn. Recording this on Thursday night, the 27th, right after the Yankees lose 2 out of 3 to the Houston Astros. There are teams I don't like watching beat the Yankees, and I don't care if it's 2017 or 2026. This is one of those teams. I don't like losing to them. I don't like losing to those rednecks. I don't like Altuve. I don't like any of them guys. But they dropped 2 out of 3 in a very bad series. It's a bit dramatic, but just wasn't fun. Lose the first game, win the middle game, and they drop the game tonight. Pitching kind of fell apart a little bit this series. The lineup produced some pretty good offense, and that's been a topic of conversation, obviously, all year, or I should say maybe all, for the last 3+ months without Aaron Judge, but that's kind of come back to life. We'll talk about that. But yeah, dropping a game in the standings in the American League East when nobody else played tonight sucks, right? I kind of hate when the Yankees play and Tampa or Boston doesn't play because you can't really gain a game. You can only lose a game in the loss column. But now the Yankees lose. Tampa and Boston get to sit, and the Yankees now see themselves 4 games back from Tampa with less than a month left. 4 is a lot scarier looking than 3. It just looks so good when it was at 3. You hope they can keep it within 4 before Aaron Judge gets back in a few weeks. That'd be great. But yeah, they're 4 back of Tampa. If you're scared of Boston, which I'm not, I never was, even during that fake little winning stretch they had a few weeks back. But if you are, they're just 2 games back, or just 2 games ahead of ahead of them. But you got a big opportunity to grow those 2 games with 4 games against Boston this upcoming weekend, Friday through Sunday. Doubleheader included in there. So if the Yankees can at least, excuse me, if the Yankees can at least split, we're in good shape. Anyways, it was a bad series, just kind of bad vibes tonight. And it was like just bad all around. I really don't want to go too long in this episode because I like to keep these episodes, having a certain type of vibe, just more of a positive outlook while still being realistic. But let's talk about it. Let's go back to Tuesday where the Yanks lost this one. This was kind of a crazy game. Tuesday night, 9-7, lost to the Astros. The righty Will Warren going up there, and he went 5 innings, struck out 4, walked 2, gave up 1 home run, 3 total runs, and 2 earned runs. Will Warren has had an up and down season, but I will give the kid one thing. He is super durable, and that is so important, especially on this 2026 team. To have somebody who can go out there and make every single start and give you at least 5 innings every time is very overlooked. And I don't think enough people give Will Warren credit for that. And he's been that way his entire career. But he continues to struggle getting through these outings with his best stuff. It always feels like he just starts the game with really good stuff, but it tapers off later in the game. And the command at the same time remains very shoddy, especially with the slider and the sinker and the 4-seam now, to be honest. But in this game specifically, I didn't think he was terrible. I didn't think all the runs were his fault. Top of the second, he obviously gives up the solo home run to Diaz. It was a pretty decent 2-seamer running in on the hands, just good swing, and it's 1-0. And then top 3, right? When he gets 2 quick outs, but then he surrenders another run. It's the Altuve 2-out base hit. Again, this was not a bad pitch. If you go back and look, it was another sinker low in the zone for a ground ball. Sometimes ground balls find holes. And then Varsho with an RBI single. Again, this was a sinker to get a ground ball, and the ground ball just found a hole, and it's 2-0. Top 5, again, I'm not blaming Warren entirely. Alvarez with a 1-out base hit. He goes and gets a sinker away, goes down and gets it. And then Isaac Paredes walks. That's when Will Warren loses the zone with his off speed. And then it was later in the inning. You had runners on the corners, 1 out. The Yanks are up 3-2, and it's Varsho with an RBI single. A pretty good changeup low and away. Gets the ground ball. Again, finds a hole, and it's 3-3. So basically, the story of Will Warren, right? He gives up hard contact, but the hard contact was on the ground, and you just need him to miss more bats. So that was it for Warren. The Yankee bats, 7 runs on 5 walks, 2 home runs. They get on the board bottom of the third. They're down 2-0. Belly with a go-ahead 3-run shot. Finally seeing Cody Bellinger go deep. That was huge. That had been something that disappeared before he went on to the IL. He had gone through that drought. So that was good to see. Bottom 5, it's a tie game. Garcia Jr., 2-run shot, 5-3 Yanks. Bottom 7, it's a tie game again. Garcia with another big hit, an RBI double to put the Yanks up 6-5. And then the Yanks are down 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th. That's when Jazz picks up an RBI single to make it 8-7, come closer. But that was as close as they could get. So you had Garcia going 4 for 5, a double and a homer. You had Jazz go 1 for 3 with a walk, a stolen base. You had Rice go 1 for 4 with a walk. You had Jones go 1 for 4 with a double that just missed a home run. And that was your offensive production. The bullpen goes 4 innings, strikeout 5. They walk 2. They gave up 2 home runs, though. 6 runs. Fernando Cruz gives up the home run to surrender the lead in the 6th. Yerry De Los Santos got through a scoreless 7th. Brent Hedrick had himself probably his worst night of the season. He gives up a home run, 3 runs in total. And then Brad Hanner, I think his name is Brad, he gives up a run after that. And so the Yankees lose on Tuesday. On Wednesday, they bounce back with a big 9-3 win. The righty Elmer Rodriguez against the righty Peter Lambert. Yankee bats, 9 runs on 5 walks in 2 home runs. Bottom 1, they're down 1-0. Ben Rice, a solo shot, and then RBI from Lombard puts the Yanks up 2-1. Bottom 4, it's a tie game. Grisham bounces into a double play, but a run does score to put the Yanks on top 3-2. And then later in the 7th, the game is tied. It's Cody Bellinger who rips a 2-run double to the pull side gap. You had Spencer Jones with an RBI single, and then you had Jazz with an RBI double, and all of a sudden it's 7-3 Yanks. Garcia tacks out in the 8th with a 2-run shot, 9-3. He goes 3 for 5 with a homer. Jazz 3 for 3, double and a stolen base. Rice was 1 for 2, a home run, 3 walks. Wells 2 for 3 with a walk. Bellinger 1 for 5 with a double. Your bullpen, 3 innings, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, no home runs, no runs. Blackburn got the 7th. Fulmer, the 8th, Michael Fulmer, who the Yanks picked up after Fernando Cruz went to the IL with the UCL injury, partial tear. He pitches a clean 8th, and then it was Tim Hill in the 9th. But I'm going to tip my cap, actually, to Paul Blackburn. We'll do that for the 5th time this year, escaping a huge jam with a couple of big strikeouts and a ground ball, right? He does surrender the double, but Lombard makes the error, I think, the next at-bat to allow that one inherited run. But then he gets the ground ball with a changeup to the next batter for an out. And then he strikes out 2 guys to escape the inning with 2 back foot breaking balls right on right. Filthy movement on those pitches just coming in. And then he leaves the mound, just ton of energy, pounding his fist into his glove. Love seeing Paul Blackburn show that. I don't feel like he does that a lot. So I thought he was great. I'm tipping my cap to him. But starting on the mound in this game was probably the guy who pitched the best game in this series. That's Elmer Rodriguez. So I'm going to tip my cap to Elmer for the second time this season. He goes 6+, strikes out 6, walks 2, gives up 1 home run, 3 runs total. But I thought he was good. He's an interesting pitcher. You know, sometimes it's hard to figure him out, but I'm kind of a sucker for pitchers with like hard two-seamers. You know, I loved Jonathan Loaizaga. I was kind of a Domingo Germán fan before, you know, the bullshit. But like Elmer Rodriguez has some good stuff. He's got movement. He's got good spin. He's got velo. You know, he just needs to command it in the zone better. And I thought he did that a couple nights ago. Or last night. You know, I thought the 4-seamer had good ride. I thought the 2-seamer was moving. It had sink. It had tail. It was sitting 97. I thought the breaking balls had break. I like his pitch mix a lot. It's a pitch mix that he can get creative with and tunnel things in different counts. You know, he can play the 2-seam off the sweeper. He can play the changeup off the fastball, the 4-seam fastball. Like he could do a lot of things. But he was recording strikeouts. He was getting swing and miss with all of his pitches in this game. He got a lot of chase, you know. He gave up 3 runs, top of the first. He gets 2 quick strikeouts, but then he kind of lost it a little bit. He gives up the 2-out walk to Paredes. He just lost the zone with both of his fastballs. And then Altuve with an RBI double, 2-seamer he left out over the plate, little up in the zone. It's 1-0. Top 4, Yanks are up 2-1. Gives up the solo homer to Varsho. It was a changeup on the outside part of the plate. You could maybe say it could have been a little more further out. It wasn't a terrible pitch. Varsho gets a hold of it. It's a home run to tie the game at 2. And then top 7, he goes back out there, issues a leadoff walk to Altuve. That's when he's pulled for Paul Blackburn, who allows that inherited run. But that was it. You know, I thought Elmer looked pretty good, and I'm intrigued. I want to see what his future looks like with this team. I think he's going to make one more start coming up before you get the full rotation back with Fried. So that was his start. And then you get to earlier today, the Yanks lose 5-1. The righty Cole against the righty Hayden Wesneski, who is a former top prospect for the Yanks. But the bats were just quiet, dead, a lot of poor at-bats. The balls that were put in play, there were some very hard hit balls that were just caught and just unlucky. So it wasn't totally awful, but didn't feel it this game. Rice got on base twice with a double. Lombard picked up a triple. Jazz was on base 2 more times, also had 2 more stolen bases. So he might actually get to 50 stolen bases if he continues to get on base. But yeah, your offensive production wasn't there in this one. Garrett Cole, 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 home run for 3 runs. Not his best outing, not his worst. He continues to just throw up quality starts. This guy's racking them things up. But I did, the one mistake pitch he made, I didn't love to see him go to that 1-0 curveball. He goes to the 1-0 curve. It's in the zone. Gives up a 2-run blast. It was a 1-run game at the time. Yanks were just in it. And then he gives up the blast. It's 3-0 in the 6th. That's the one thing that Garrett Cole has always been prone to. He will give up bombs a lot. He's kind of a home run machine. That's his literal only defect, is that he will give up a lot of fly balls. He does not get ground ball contact. He's going to strike you out, and then he's going to give up fly balls. And sometimes fly balls are going to leave the park, if you're playing in certain stadiums. So gives up the bomb to kind of, there's just kind of a gut punch. But he continues to look good. Another good, again, quality start. The whiff rates recently have been a little bit more average than elite, but they're still a lot better than they were earlier in the season. He got 24% swing and miss tonight, which is just about league average. And he had some really, really good looking strikeouts in this game. Peyton 98 on the black consistently. He was going top of the zone on the corners, on the edges. He had a paint job to Jordan where he struck him out in the first. He froze the leadoff batter in this game with a fastball, 98 low in the zone. Looking really good. I'm very encouraged by what Garrett Cole has given the Yankees this season, and I'm excited to see what he looks like as he rounds into form in the playoffs. Right, he's just getting into form now. He missed 2 months or a month and change, whatever it was. He came back late May. So that's Garrett Cole. The bullpen, you threw your mop up guys. Yeri gave up a run, and some guy, Topa, gave up another run. Whatever. And I'm not worried about the bullpen. I guess we can kind of transition to that. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm slurring my words all night. I don't know what's going on. It's late. It's almost midnight. But I'm not going to overreact to performances from this series because you go back to Tuesday and what was it? It was Brent Hedrick having a very rare off night, and then they were fine on Wednesday. And then tonight it was a bunch of randoms who won't pitch a single inning in October. Right. So I'm not worried about that. I think what I am a little bit concerned about is just the depth of the bullpen now, because Weathers is now on the IL. He's not going to be back until the postseason, and now you're just throwing him right in the bullpen and expecting him to adopt right away, coming off an injury at that. Fernando Cruz is now done for the season with the Tommy John surgery. I know he said he wants to get a second opinion. That usually never goes well. So it sucks because you go back to the trade deadline and you go back to even before it, you were supposed to be getting, let's just go way back because the plan initially was to have Ryan Weathers in the bullpen by now, but that's not happening anymore. Hopefully that can happen when you get to the playoffs and everybody gets there healthy. Nobody else gets hurt. And then you were supposed to get Carlos Legrand. That plan didn't work this season with the injury that he suffered. And so the Yankees at the deadline, they get rid of Camilo Doval. They get rid of Jake Bird. They trade Giovanni Cruz along with Camilo Doval. But in getting rid of all these guys, they get no relief pitching in return. Zero. They acquired zero relief pitching via trade. And I don't think that was the intended move. I think what happened was I think Cashman may have, underestimated the relief pitching market a little bit. And he thought it was going to be a lot less pricier than it was. And he kind of got caught in between. He got rid of the guys he wanted to move off of, thought he could get something for what he had, and the price turned out to be a lot bigger than it was, and that he ended up getting nothing. And now they're in a situation where they got to pick guys off the scrap heap, which if there's anything I do trust the Yankees to do, it's that. It's for Brian Cashman to find some random off the, scrap heap and Matt Blake to turn this guy into an above average arm. I trust that. They've been doing that forever, right? But you do wish, because they always go out and trade for relief pitching. You do wish they did that because now their depth is very short and you have to hope that everybody else stays healthy. You better hope Bednar stays healthy. Good Lord. You better hope Brent Hedrick stays healthy. You better hope Paul Blackburn, who's now, going to be an even bigger part to this pen, stays healthy. Those are your three horses now in the back without Fernando Cruz. So I know Fernando has tapered off for a bit, but he was still having a good season. He's still a guy who can go in there and get you swing and miss. Now you no longer have that. So that's the only unfortunate part of this bullpen. But, you go to the other side of the diamond, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing offensively from the Yankees. And specifically, it's the Yankee lefties that have really started to carry this lineup, and the process is starting to show. A lot of the Yankee lefties, they slowly but surely helped get this lineup back on track over the last month. It hasn't always been linear, the progress, but you look at somebody like Austin Wells, and he started turning it around 34 games ago entering tonight. So his last 34 entering tonight, if you cherry pick that, 129 WRC plus with a 335 expected weighted on base. So good results and very good process to get there. You go back to Trent Grisham's last 20 games entering tonight, a 151 WRC plus and a 353 expected weighted on base. So again, good results, good process. And Jazz Chisholm entering tonight, his last 9, 212 WRC plus with a 397 expected weighted on base. And tonight he got on base 2 more times. So the WRC plus at least is going to go up. So good process and good results from those guys. I feel like Spencer Jones has put up some really good numbers since getting recalled. Luis Garcia Jr., his numbers look much stronger after that slow start here. We'll talk about him in just a second. Cody Bellinger looks pretty good since his return. But it's mainly those 3 lefties, Wells, Grisham, and Jazz, because those guys have been key parts to this lineup, and they were all so good for the Yankees last year. And they've all been a little underwhelming or majorly underwhelming, no matter who you want to talk, depending on who you want to talk about. But those are the 3 lefties who've taken steps back from last year and have taken heavy criticism all of this year, right? And the results are finally starting to match what has been pretty good underlying process with Wells and Grisham, right? Like all season long, Wells against right-handed pitching has been pretty good, even if the results hadn't been there. And now that's starting to come around. And Grisham all season long has been pretty good process-wise too. And that's been coming around this past month or so. But with Jazz, it's good too, because Jazz is starting to show some really good process. That's been missing with him. He's actually looked horrible for a good chunk of the season process-wise. But lately, again, these last 10 games or so, you're seeing better swing decisions. He's not chasing at balls outside the zone. You're seeing more hard hit balls in the air, and that's Jazz Chisholm at his best, right? And the results are coming, and he's getting on base, and he's hitting for power, and when he's not hitting for power, he's stealing bases when he gets on base. So Jazz remains the key for me. We talk about it all the time. It's the process. It's being more aggressive in the zone at the same time is when he's chasing, you want him to swing at pitches that are strikes, because a lot of the time you'll see him just take those fastballs. So good to see that change. The Yankee lineup, since the Judge injury, again, when I talk process, there's kind of a couple of ways to break apart process, right? There's batted ball data, which since the Judge injury, the Yankees have produced some pretty good batted ball data. Like if you look at all the exit velocities, the hard hit rates, the balls in the air, they're doing that. They're hitting a lot of hard hit balls in the air. That's good. They're still able to impact the baseball in the way you want. What's not been there since the Judge injury has been they're not batting a lot of balls. So they're not getting to bat balls. So when they're batting balls, good things are happening process-wise, but they are whiffing a lot on balls in the strike zone, and they're also chasing a lot with Judge down on balls outside the strike zone. But lately, that part of the process has been on an uptick where they are walking more and striking out less. So if you're walking instead of chasing on those pitches out of the zone, and then you're hitting the ball hard, like that's the recipe for success. And that's why the Yankee lineup in their last 7 games entering tonight, we're averaging just about 6 runs per game, scoring 7+ runs in 3 consecutive, again, before tonight. So this is all huge. I know that sounds like French, but this is all huge for the Yankees. To be able to be this lineup where they can mash on right-handed pitching like this, these are all the bats that are the important parts to do this with, all these lefties. So those guys have hit. But yeah, I want to talk about Luis Garcia Jr. for a second, man, because this kid he's been good. He's been electric. He's been fun. So I'm going to tip my cap to him for the first time. He's finally starting to find his footing after what had been a pretty rough, first 5 or so games in the Bronx. He did have the first game, but went through a little bit of a slump after that. But he's been insanely hot. In his first 2 games, because he was 0 for 4 tonight, but you go to his first 2 games of the series, he was 7 for 10 with a double, 2 home runs, and 5 RBIs. You're hearing a lot of Robbie Cano comps because he's a smooth lefty swinging second baseman. He's playing first, but I also think he's similar to Robbie Cano just in terms of his hitter profile, where they're both, you want to talk about a high contact, high batting average guy, but chases a lot and doesn't walk a ton, but he makes very hard line drive, fly ball contact for tons of extra base hits, doubles, and homers. That's kind of what Robinson Cano was, right? And that's what Luis Garcia is. Luis Garcia's metrics as a Yankee entering tonight have been super impressive. It's everything you want process-wise. He's been 74th percentile in barrel rate, 73rd percentile in zone contact, 88th percentile in hard hit rate, 78th in pull air, 71st in expected weighted on base. All the good things you want to see are there. So I love this kid. I love guys who can hit the ball hard for power. A lot of Yankees fans say they like Luis Garcia Jr. because he's this high contact, high batting average guy. That's not really the case. I think a lot of people don't realize it, but they like him because he slugs, not because he hits for average. Like, he has a mediocre 320 on base, but an insane 560 something slug. The batting average is pretty empty because when he doesn't walk enough to turn those hits into a ton of times on base, right? So if you're hitting 288, but you're not walking, the 288's not producing a high OBP, so you're still not getting on base. But what we love is the doubles and the home runs, right? It's not the hits divided by at-bats. It's the total bases divided by the at-bats. That slugging percentage. That's what we like from Luis Garcia. He's providing you slug. And it's been so impactful for this Yankees team. And it's gotten them back into so many games. And so Luis Garcia Jr., tipping my cap to him. Really, really good acquisition by Brian Cashman, who a couple of days ago, there was a report that after the season, the Yankees plan on giving Brian Cashman an extension. And I saw that report. I don't know how true it is, but I saw it and I said, yeah, duh, that's a no-brainer. Because Brian Cashman, Cashman builds a team that consistently gets to the postseason. And that's really as much as a GM can do that's in his control, right? Let me build a team that can get me to October. So many GMs, so many teams struggle to do that. How many teams can you really look at in this league and say year after year after year, decade on top of decade, this team's going to be in the playoffs 80% of their seasons, if not more, right? Look at how many different teams are in contention in the American League East every year. The Yankees are fighting for the division title with a new team every year. It's always the Yankees in the thick of it, but it's a new team every other year fighting with them. Always. Look at the American League as a whole. Weak. Look at the Yankees every single season. In it. The only season they didn't get in was when Judge ran into the friggin' concrete wall. They're always in it. They're always making the playoffs. Everything beyond that, once you get to the playoffs, is a crapshoot. It is a weighted roll of the dice. I always make this analogy. If I roll a die and I say, hey, if I roll a 2 or a 1, I win. But if you roll a 3, 4, 5, or 6, you win. You've got the better odds, the better roster, but I can still win. That's how the playoffs works, right? Anything can happen in short series. In a 7-game series, anything can happen. A team starts 7-0. It's pretty impressive. As a team goes 162-0, that's 10 times more impressive because you're succeeding that much longer over a short time where it's almost a given you're going to struggle. That's why the playoffs are a crapshoot. So you can't really blame Cashman for the team who gets them to the playoffs and then they lose. That's not him. That's on the players. So I think the people against the Cashman extension are obviously the ones who subscribe to a different philosophy about October, and that's completely okay. You're wrong, but that's completely okay. But yeah, like you are watching a Yankees team that is currently, I want to say 2 or 3 wins off pace from where they were last year at the end when they tied Toronto for the best record in the league. That's where they are. And this is without Aaron Judge and then some. So like give him a little bit of credit here. And we talked about that last episode. Like he's doing everything. He's given the youth run. Everybody wants to see the kids. Elmer is pitching. Spencer Jones is up. Lombard Jr. is here. And now Lombard's struggling a little bit, right? Like that's another thing. George Lombard Jr. he's been struggling at the plate lately, but the noise is coming at shortstop where he's now committed an error for 6 consecutive games. Yeah, it's bad. You don't want to see it happen. He's just a rookie. Are we really going to do this? Like, we're really going to start counting errors to build narratives? Like, again, you guys, not you guys, I don't want to alienate my audience, but people out there, some people out there are just so quick to jump. Both jump on the good and the bad, right? If he gets off to a hot start, you guys are jumping and he's the one. He's the next Jeter. But the first sign of a struggle and it's, Volpe 2.0. Like it's just, you've got fools saying like the Yankees cannot be putting this kid out there in the middle of a pennant race. All of a sudden, those same individuals who are advocating for him to come up, right? It's just mindless trash. You know, first of all, there's no better option. This is the best option you've got. You guys, we're calling Volpe a terrorist. Jose Cab has not been good. Lombard's your best option. He's got the most upside. He's the youngest one there. He's got the skill set. But second of all, yeah, like these are all the same people who were just constantly, before Lombard Jr. was up, all in their feelings, all dramatic about Cashman and how he has to play the kids and give them opportunities. You can't play 26 vets. You're not going to win that. That's horrible roster construction. You got to have youth in there. And George Lombard, I feel like, is going to be fine. My I don't want to say concern, but if I am keeping an eye on something, it's not reactionary garbage to the moment, like the glove. It's not the glove. We know the glove is there. The glove's elite. I'm not going to react to 6 errors in 6 games because that's the same thing as me reacting to a good hitter struggling at the plate and then saying he's not a good hitter because he's struggling. Like it's just variance. It's math. Those same types of fans watch with their emotions and not their minds, not their brains. They all, they think all slumps are created equal at the plate, right? They don't believe in doing good things if the results are not there. That means you must be doing something wrong. Those are the types of fans who are getting on Lombard right now. Anyways, my concern's not about Lombard's glove. I think that's going to be there. It's always been about his pull power. It was there in AAA this past season when he was down there. That's good. A sample size of about 250-ish at-bats. But we haven't seen the pull power yet at the big league level. You need to see it for longer for me to really buy into it. You're seeing a lot of balls on the ground to the second base side, which is not great. But again, power also comes with age as he develops as a player and starts swinging at better pitches. But as he grows into his body, so it might take a minute before he becomes a good hitter. But I do think, although it's been a bit inconsistent, the plate discipline has looked pretty good, especially in those first number of games. I liked what I saw. But yeah, I'm not worried about George, man. I think he'll be fine. It's really rough right now, and it's easy to pile on him, especially when these are coming in losses. But I think he'll be okay long term. So with that said, we're going to head to a quick break. We're going to get back, talk about what's coming up next, and then get to our trivia. Stay with us. Be back in 1 sec. All right, quick break here. While we're gone, just want to make sure you're following me on social media at BD4Pod on both Twitter and Instagram. That's where I'm posting daily Yankees and Knicks content, updates, takes, and everything in between. Thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast, watches the videos, interacts with the posts, or even just tunes in every once in a while. I appreciate every single one of you more than you know. It means a lot. Let's get back to the show. All right, welcome back to the show, episode 1082 of the podcast. Going to wrap this one up here. We haven't done this in a minute. It's been a long time since we did a trivia question, but tonight's trivia question: when was the last time the Yankees finished a season with a losing record against the Astros? All right. When was the last time the Yankees finished a season with a losing record against the Astros? Let me know the answer. Kind of an easy question, but if you do know the answer, let me know, and I'll give you a shout out in the next episode. But I do appreciate everybody for tuning in. Up next for the Yanks again, they are 2 up on Boston. So Boston comes to town. You got 4 games to wrap up a homestand. Tomorrow night, 7:15 p.m. Saturday, you have a doubleheader. You got a 1:05 and then a 7:15. And then Sunday, you got a 1:35 game. So you got a real chance to gain some separation from Boston in the standings. The Yankees can either choose to do that. They can either stay pretty neutral with a split, or worst case scenario, they do what they kind of did last time and they completely fold and let Boston right back in it. So hopefully they can gain some separation. I think 3 out of 4 would be fantastic. Anything more, obviously icing on the cake if they sweep. We'll see. So Yanks lose to Houston, but they got another rival coming up next. We'll see what happens. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next episode.